Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're now starting out our fifth cycle of the series. So, starting back with 1990, doing an album on this video. In this episode, we're talking about Facelift by Alice in Chains. Just a great grunge rock album. I think easily, in my opinion, their second best album. I think Dirt comes first for me. Dirt's amazing. And this album is incredible as well. So I have some notes here about this album. We're going to get through those notes, get to the track list, and all that like we normally do on these album videos. So we just pop my notebook open here. There we go. So Alice in Chains, Facelift, first released August 28th, 1990. This is their debut studio album. Really good tracks on this, like We Die Young and Man in the Box, probably being the two most known songs. I would say probably Man in the Box is probably their most known off of this album. That is just an incredible track. This is also very cool. The first, according to my research, the first grunge album to get certified gold by the RIAA. So went gold in 1991. But really cool because that's the first grunge album to kind of hit that certification. And then, like other grunge albums kind of followed. Like a year after this came out, we had Nevermind by Nirvana. So this was definitely a good starting point. Not really a starting point, but like grunge had been out for a little while at that point. But this was like the first grunge album that somewhat broke into the mainstream. By getting gold, which I think is 500,000 copies sold, and then platinum's 1 million. I think it's eventually went on to be triple platinum, according to my research. I'll have to check that out. It peaked at, or it got as high as number 42 on the Billboard 200. And kind of like around this time period, according to my research here, Randy Houser kind of found Alice in Chains at like a local show. And I think had offered to pay for their demo recordings because I think he's like, hey, I like the way this band sounds. Let's get some demos out there and like see what we can do, see where we can go. So they were all set to do that, but apparently a day before they were to record these demos, there was another demo tape that I think that got passed around and eventually got them signed. But basically the day before those recordings were supposed to happen, the studio got shut down by law enforcement, apparently in Washington State's biggest marijuana bust, I think, in the state's history. So they were basically set to record, get everything going for these demos, and then the studio got completely shut down at the biggest marijuana raid in the state's history. Let's see, I think those demos were called the Treehouse tapes. So they eventually got passed around and then eventually ended up in the manager of Soundgarden's possession. And they passed those along to Columbia. And then Columbia ended up signing Alice in Chains kind of shortly after that. There's an interesting quote here I got to bring up from the drummer here. Basically, Sean Kinney, who is still their drummer, said basically he had to play that album with a broken hand. And I think they were in the process, let me just read this quote. It says, I almost didn't play on the record. They started rehearsing with the drummer for Mother Love Bone, Greg Gilmore. I was sitting there playing with one hand, guiding him through it. Dave Jernin came in, and they started to try to do it. He was like, screw it, pull the plug. This is not going to be the same. Luckily, we took a tiny bit of time off. I had that cast on for a while and was like, I can't miss this. I cut my cast off in the studio and kept a bucket of ice by the drum set. Kept my hand iced down and played with a broken hand. I tried not to do that again. Your first big break and you F it up. So basically, their first big break, he's got a broken hand, his hand's in a cast. Seems like they're trying to kind of guide another drummer through like the drum patterns and like kind of like the drum track that they had created, or drum tracks I should say, had created for the album, and it just wasn't working with this other drummer. So then their drummer had to, Sean Kinney basically had to play through those recordings with a broken hand, basically keeping his hand iced between between tracks and stuff like that. So that's definitely dedication. So that's kind of a cool story that I didn't know before I was doing my research for this episode. Jerry Cantrell, guitarist, and kind of like one of the founding members of Alice in Chains, said the album had a, quote, more moody aura, and it was another quote was a direct result of the brooding atmosphere and feel of Seattle. So kind of like Alice in Chains, a huge part of that like Seattle grunge sound, along with like of course Nirvana and Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, bands like that. So very early '90s Seattle grunge is just incredible. Just highly recommend checking some of those bands out because that time period in just American music culture is just super interesting. A lot of just bands kind of coming out of that area during that time period. Jerry Cantrell had a quote about the track "We Die Young." Let me just bring that up here. Let's see here. Let me just find it. I can't find it here. There we go. So, basically, the lyrical content, he said, for "We Die Young," it says, quote, this is another quote from him, it says, "Riding the bus for rehearsal and seeing all these 9, 10, 11-year-old kids with beepers dealing drugs. The sight of a 10-year-old with a beeper and a cell phone dealing drugs equated, quote, we die young." And then another quote from Lane Staley about Man in the Box, that he said the song Man in the Box is about censorship in the mass media, and the quote that he has is like, quote, "I was really stoned when I wrote it." So you can definitely, like, listening to the lyrics of Man in the Box, it's like you can definitely see where it's like, "I'm the man in the box, like, bury me," and stuff like that. So, like, basically, like, censoring. It makes sense, but even though he did admit to being really stoned when he wrote Man in the Box. Album came out to some decent reviews. Let me see here. So we only have a handful of them to go through. Let me close the notebook. We're done with that. So AllMusic has it at looks like a 3.5 out of 5. Classic Rock has it at a 4.5 out of 5. Q has it at a 4 out of 5, and the Rolling Stone Album Guide has it at a 3 out of 5. I think it's definitely, like I said, in my opinion, their second best album. I did a video for Dirt, I think a couple cycles back from 1993. I'll leave a link in the description to check that one out. Ozzy Osbourne in 2017 said it was one of his 10 favorite metal albums. Like, I consider it grunge still, but it definitely falls into the metal range. Even Dirt does that with, like, Them Bones definitely feels like a metal song. Anyhow, we're going to move into our track list here. So our album has 12 tracks, comes in about 54 minutes. Track 1 is "We Die Young." Track 2 is "Man in the Box." "Man in the Box" is a classic. I remember playing that song. I think it first showed up in Rock Band 2 in like 2008. I had heard the song obviously before then, but I definitely remember getting more into it after it showed up in, I believe it was Rock Band 2. After that, so that was track 2. After that, we have track 3, which is "Sea of Sorrow." Track 4 is "Bleed the Freak." Track 5 is "I Can't Remember." Track 6 is "Love, Hate, Love." Track 7 is "It Ain't Like That." Track 8 is "Sunshine." Track 9 is "Put You Down." Track 10 is "Confusion." Track 11 is "I Knew Something," in parentheses, "About You." And then track 12 is "Real Thing." So again, 12 tracks coming in a little under an hour, 54 minutes, and 2 seconds. So yeah, Facelift is just an incredible album. Highly recommended if you're into kind of like grunge music at all, or want to kind of get a kind of idea of how Alice in Chains started out. This is like obviously their debut studio album, so highly recommended. Again, I'll leave a link in the description to check out the video for Dirt, which was another album they put out. Easily my top 2 are Dirt and Facelift. But that is going to do it for this video. We'll be back again in a few days. We'll be doing a movie, and then we'll be back after that doing another video game. And again, we're now starting into our 5th cycle of the decade. And I see basically the sky's the limit with the series. So I think I can continue just there's a ton of content for this amazing decade. So we're going to just continue doing this until kind of there's nothing left to really make videos about, I guess. But again, that's going to do it for now. So thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.